A heavy door echoes, sealing a fate. Behind the opulent walls of the Ottoman palace existed a hidden world of immense power and profound sorrow. We will follow the tragic life of a female concubine, a woman whose existence of silks and jewels was a gilded cage. By the end, you will understand the true human cost of this glittering prison. What did it truly take to survive in a place where a single whisper could be your end? How did a young girl, stolen from her home, navigate a labyrinth of deadly ambition? What does it feel like when your greatest dream is also your most certain doom? What would you be willing to sacrifice for a chance at power? Her journey began not in silk, but in terror. A girl, perhaps only 12 or 13 years old, was ripped from her village in the Balkans or the Caucasus. Her world, once defined by family and familiar fields, shattered in an instant. This was the devshirme system, a human tax that tore young non-Muslim girls from their roots to fuel the empire's heart. Forced onto carts and marched for weeks, she arrived at a destination beyond her darkest fears, the slave markets of Constantinople. The air was thick with foreign smells and the cacophony of a dozen languages, all bargaining for human lives. Standing on a raised platform, she was examined like livestock. Merchants checked her teeth, evaluated her posture, and judged the potential beauty hidden beneath the grime of travel. It was a profoundly dehumanizing spectacle, reducing a person to a price. The sale was just the beginning. Her new life started with a brutal re-education. Her given name was taken, replaced by a new, poetic Turkish one meant to erase her past. She was scrubbed, groomed, and taught the intricate rules of palace conduct. Every aspect of her former identity was systematically stripped away, layer by layer, to be rebuilt into something else entirely, a polished instrument of pleasure and service. What must it have felt like to have your very soul scrubbed clean, only to be painted over with the colors of a captor's culture? This was the foundation of her tragedy, a self forged in captivity, designed for a single purpose, to please the most powerful man in the world. This new name was her first ticket into a world of brutal competition. Inside the harem, a rigid hierarchy governed every aspect of life, a pyramid of power with the valide Sultan, the Queen Mother, seated firmly at its peak. She was the undisputed ruler of this secluded domain, a master strategist who managed the Sultan's household, his treasury, and the very futures of the hundreds of women living under her watchful eye. For our young concubine, this woman was the ultimate gatekeeper to every possible dream and every potential nightmare. Her life began at the very bottom, as a carrier, a trainee. This was not a life of leisure. She spent her days in relentless instruction, learning everything from the complex rules of court etiquette to the art of embroidery, music, and dance. Every skill was a potential weapon, a way to distinguish herself in a sea of beautiful faces. The goal was to be noticed, to be selected for promotion to the next rung, a jadikli. As a jadikli, she would become a personal servant to a higher-ranking woman, perhaps even the valide Sultan herself. This was her first real chance to learn the intricate politics of the court, to observe the alliances and enmities that shaped their world, all while performing the most menial tasks with perfect grace. The air in the harem was thick with unspoken rules and whispered secrets. A friendly smile could be a genuine offer of alliance or a carefully laid trap. A misplaced word, a careless glance, even the wrong choice of fabric could spell disaster. Rivals were everywhere, and trust was a luxury no one could afford. The most dangerous game was the pursuit of the Sultan's favor. To catch his eye and become an ikbal, a favorite, was to be vaulted into a new sphere of influence, gifted with your own apartments and servants. But this elevation made you a target. The other women, especially the Sultan's existing wives, the kadıns, would see you as a direct threat to their own status and the future of their children. Climbing this ladder was a perilous dance where a single misstep could lead to a devastating fall. You could be demoted, banished to a distant palace, or simply disappear, your name never spoken again. The constant surveillance, from the eunuch guards to the other concubines, meant you were always performing, always careful. What must it have been like to live in a world where a casual conversation over coffee was a potential battlefield, where the gift of a sweet could be a token of affection or a sentence of poison? Her entire existence was a balancing act between ambition and survival, a desperate attempt to climb a golden ladder that was slick with the ambitions of others. The ultimate prize in this deadly game was a single night, a brief audience that could define your entire future. To be chosen by the Sultan was not a matter of simple romance, it was a highly orchestrated performance. A concubine selected for his company would undergo hours of preparation, bathed in scented oils and draped in the finest silks. She was coached on every detail, from the precise way to pour his coffee to the specific poems or songs that might capture his intellectual curiosity. Her entire existence, all those years of grueling training, culminated in this one encounter. Every gesture, every note of a song, every line of recited poetry was a carefully placed bet on her own survival. The pressure was immense, a crushing weight to be both perfectly alluring and flawlessly obedient. But what was the alternative to this terrifying opportunity? Failure to ever be chosen meant a slow, quiet death within the gilded cage. You would remain a servant, growing older in the shadows, your name forgotten, your life one of profound loneliness amidst a sea of people. This was a fate many considered worse than death itself, a lifetime of obscurity after being groomed for a single moment of glory. Yet success came with its own, far more immediate dangers. To be marked as the Sultan's favorite, even for one night, was to paint a target on your back. The valide Sultan and the existing kadins watched these new favorites with a hawk's intensity. A pregnancy was the ultimate success, securing your status and potentially the line of succession, but it also made you and your unborn child the primary focus of every rival's envy and fear. A gift of a luxurious robe or a plate of sweet desserts could hide a deadly poison. A friendly conversation on a balcony could be a prelude to a fatal push. The greatest tragedy, however, was often reserved for those who succeeded in the night but failed in their biological duty. If a concubine did not become pregnant after her time with the Sultan, she could be cast aside, given as a wife to a high-ranking official as a reward for his service. While this might sound like an escape, it was often a sentence to a different kind of prison, a life with a stranger, forever separated from the only world she had known since childhood. She won the ultimate lottery, only to have the prize cruelly revoked. So, what did it feel like to achieve your greatest ambition, only to discover it was the beginning of your ruin? Yet even success in the royal bedchamber opened the door to a new, more refined form of torment. For the concubine who achieved the ultimate goal, becoming pregnant and giving birth to a son, a prince known as a Shahzad, her life transformed overnight. She was elevated to the prestigious rank of a mother of a prince, showered with gifts, and given her own lavish household within the harem. This was the dream she had been trained for, the pinnacle of her existence. But it was a dream laced with a chilling dread. Her son was no longer just her child. He was a living, breathing pawn in the empire's most dangerous game, the succession. From the moment of his birth, the little prince became a symbol of both immense hope and immediate threat. His very existence challenged the position of every other prince and their ambitious mothers. The most terrifying specter hanging over them all was the law of fratricide, a centuries-old practice that allowed a new sultan, upon ascending the throne, to execute his brothers to prevent civil war. Can you fathom the depth of a mother's love, forever shadowed by the knowledge that her son's life could be legally extinguished by his own sibling? Every birthday her boy celebrated was a reminder that he was 1 year closer to a potential death sentence, his only crime being his royal blood. She had to raise him to be intelligent and capable, yet never so brilliant that he appeared to be a direct challenge to the reigning sultan or the heir apparent. It was a perpetual, soul-crushing tightrope walk. Her own position was equally precarious. Her entire future now hinged on the survival and success of her son. If he were to die of illness, or worse, be executed, her status would vanish. She would be cast aside, a failed vessel for a dynasty that no longer had any use for her. The political machinations were relentless. Rival factions within the palace would try to influence her son, or spread vicious rumors about his ambitions, all in an effort to see him fall from grace. She had to be a diplomat, a spy, and a protector, navigating a court where a friendly tutor could be an assassin, and a playful game in the gardens could be a carefully staged accident. The greatest heartbreak, however, awaited most of these mothers. When a sultan died and a new one took the throne, the vast majority of the royal prince's mothers did not become the all-powerful valide sultan. Instead, they were exiled. They were sent to the old palace, a separate, quiet complex far from the seat of power, while their sons were often assigned to govern distant provinces. This separation was permanent. A mother who had dedicated her life to her child's survival was torn from him, condemned to live out her days in peaceful, yet agonizing, obscurity. She could only hear news of her son from messengers, forever wondering if he was safe, if he was happy, if he was even alive. Her greatest achievement, the son she loved, became the source of her most profound and lasting sorrow, a living ghost she could never hold again. Her entire life was a journey from one cage to another. It began with the violent theft of her freedom, a girl torn from her home and stripped of her name. Within the palace walls, she entered a new kind of prison, one gilded with silk and shadowed by constant fear. The psychological torment of the harem was a slow erosion of self, where every friendship was a potential betrayal and every ambition a step toward potential ruin. Even the ultimate success, bearing a son, locked her into a final, heartbreaking cycle of hope and despair, forever fearing for his life and mourning the inevitable separation. This is the true human cost, often glossed over by tales of imperial splendor. The story of the Ottoman concubine is not just one individual's tragedy. It is a powerful lens through which we can view the darker mechanics of an empire built on absolute power. It forces us to look beyond the grand mosques and military conquests to the silent suffering woven into the very fabric of the court. These forgotten lives remind us that history is written not only in treaties and battles, but in the quiet tears shed in opulent rooms. We would love to hear which part of this hidden history resonated most deeply with you. Was it the brutal beginning of the devshirme system, the deadly politics of the harem, or the cruel fate of the mothers of princes? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want to join us in uncovering more of these forgotten lives, please subscribe for more deep dives into the past.